Hey movie junkies, welcome back to Twin Flicks, where we always hear celebrating the magic of movies and most importantly, physical media with you. Now, if you didn't catch my latest 4K versus Blu-ray comparison of Avatar, then definitely check it out because there are some major improvements with this 4K. So if you haven't checked it out yet, the link will be at the end of this video. But today we're talking about a movie, one of my favorite movies from the early 2000s, and I never thought would get a 4K release. Paramount Pictures actually released this twice on Blu-ray. This one was in 2021, and I think the previous one was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And then they came out this year, actually last week, with a 4K UHD presentation of the film. Now, Vanilla Sky is a remake of the Spanish film Abre los Ojos, translated as Open Your Eyes. And if you've seen the movie, that title completely fits. And Vanilla Sky is one of those rare American remakes that is on par or even better than the original international version. I will say, though, that if you've never seen the Spanish version, definitely check that one out. But with the American remake, there are some changes that fleshes out the story and character development a lot more and carries more weight to the film with the characters. I will say, though, that my biggest complaint of this remake was towards the ending, the shootout outside the building that's on the Spanish version. It was shot, but Cameron Crowe decided to cut it, which I personally think is a mistake because that shootout scene really carries a lot more weight to the end of the film. Fortunately, though, it is included as a bonus feature as a deleted scene, so if you're interested, you can check that out in the bonus features. Now, before we dive into this review, I just wanted to give a couple quick tidbits on the film. Tom Cruise, who also produced the film, wanted the movie to be originally directed by Steven Spielberg. In fact, Spielberg was attached to it, but he ended up becoming too busy starting pre-production on AI, and instead Steven Spielberg recommended Cameron Crowe to helm the film. And second, Vanilla Sky was also the first film to completely shut down Times Square with the help of the city's film commission, the mayor's office, the police department, and they all helped arrange the entire area to be completely shut down for 90 minutes. And that has never happened before for a film, and I don't believe it's ever happened since. If that doesn't show you the clout that Tom Cruise has as a producer, then honestly I don't know what does. Now, the film opened in 2001, and I still remember seeing the film on opening day. And it was one of those rare films where my mouth was just open through the entire film. I was just in awe over the film. The way it was constructed, the way it was directed, written, acted, the psychological parallels between what's real and what's not, and the massive use of visual language throughout the film just honestly blew me away. And speaking about visual language, the film was shot by Oscar winner John Toll, who won the Oscar for Braveheart. And director Cameron Crowe and John Toll decided to shoot the film more unconventionally, to visually tell the story and to give an emotional psychological effect, especially during some of those crucial scenes, using soft focus, certain scenes even looking a little blown out, and also using natural colors, but also muted colors depending on the scene, giving the film an intentionally unique look to it. The film has shots that look like it was shot in the 60s or the 70s, and other shots looking more modern time, and other shots looking like a painting giving an unrealistic look to it. And a freckle has never been so crucial in a film's plot point. Now, with the Blu-ray, there was some issues with it, and it desperately needed correcting, including a zoomed-in frame of 178, where the film was framed at 1:85:1. Well, now Vanilla Sky has been given a new 4K restoration from the original 35mm negative with HDR and Dolby Vision grading, and the intended 1:85:1 ratio, all approved by director Cameron Crowe. So let's dig in and compare the two formats and if the 4K is worth the upgrade. And the results of this native 4K UHD disc is spectacular, especially when compared to the previous Blu-rays, and is an excellent upgrade. The image is just all around cleaner, sharper, brighter, and the 1:85 ratio compared to the 1:78 does make a nice improvement and a difference. The color reproduction is just exquisite, with the HDR Dolby Vision grading really opening up the color gamut much wider now, giving us greater color depth than the Blu-ray could ever have. With beautifully pronounced primaries. All the reds, yellows, blues, greens are much stronger, fuller, and lifelike here. That has some really nice pop to them as well. While the Blu-ray had some pretty lackluster colors with some looking a little muted, here with the 4K, the entire color palette from secondaries to primaries to hues to highlights just look exquisite, and the saturation is slightly increased, given that added depth of vividness without it ever looking overly rich. Contrast is also more comfortable here, so the skies are not as blown out as they were on the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray just really lacked in contrast. Skin tones are also warmer than on the Blu-ray and look more natural. Black levels are handled much better here, where the Blu-ray suffered from little crushing, and I even noticed some slightly black grays. Now we have all those rich, deeper, inky blacks and velvety shadows that we all love to see, giving way to more detailed information in the image and allowing the color depth to pop even more, even in the darkest areas. A great example of this is during the rave scene where Cruz has his white, palish, almost skin-toned mask over his head. The mask really stands out on this 4K amongst the darkness of the club, with the camera looking down from a bird's eye view. It just looks phenomenal and a huge night and day difference from the Blu-ray. White levels are also much better here. One of the biggest issues with the Blu-ray was blown out whites and hot spots. I mean, the improvement is obvious here. Just take a look at Kurt Russell's hand. The light is completely blown out on his hand compared to the 4K. So none of those blown out whites are here with the 4K. This has all been corrected now, and crisper and much more natural whites. Details and textures are also much better here and looking razor sharp without any artificial sharpening done. Facial close-ups and skin textures are excellent, revealing strands of hair, imperfections, pores, beads of sweat. All the scarring on Tom Cruise's disfigured face is much more revealing now. I noticed even more lines and deeper scarring than I did on the Blu-ray. The New York City environments really spring to life with complexity that's razor sharp, picking up even the smallest detail and object in the background. There is also much more depth here and three-dimensionality than I've seen on home media. And I've owned this on DVD and Blu-ray, and I've never seen it look like this before. The depth and three-dimensionality is so much more improved that it creates a much more lifelike surroundings that just cripples the Blu-ray. And I found that the bitrate ranges from 75 peaking around 90. And also, thankfully, there was no DNR scrubbing, unlike the Blu-ray that had a lot of DNR scrubbing to it. Here with this 4K, we have a very nice fine layer of grain, giving us that 35mm filmic appearance that we all love to see. Vanilla Sky is an exemplary 4K UHD and looks how I remember seeing it in a theater 100%, and is how a 22-year-old movie should look with a new 4K restoration. Alright, now let's get into the audio presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have an upgrade for the audio. I would have loved to have heard this in a Dolby Atmos track, fully utilizing the film's sound production. Instead, we have the same 5.1 track as on the previous Blu-rays, and it sounds great. I really don't have any problems with it. Alright, so my score for Paramount Pictures' 4K presentation of Vanilla Sky, I'm giving the video a resounding 5 out of 5. As for the audio, I have to knock it down a peg to a 4 out of 5. This is definitely worth the upgrade. Alright, but I'm really curious about your opinion here, so let me know over in the comments. When you look at the differences here between the Blu-ray and this new 4K UHD, which do you like better? Or do you see any differences at all? Let me know over in the comments. Alright guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes here and comparing the differences here between the 4K and the Blu-ray of Vanilla Sky. As always, keep physical media alive, and I'll see you next time.